It is a pet peeve.
Oh, really? You think that's funny?
A little bit.
Carla, Turk's drinking coffee.
No! If your pregnant wife can't have coffee, then you can't.
Oh, please have some sort of nut. Hazel.
Careful, Turkleton. First, it's no coffee. Next thing you know, she's going to want you in the delivery room holding her hands while she pushes that little bugger out.
My man will be there when his baby is born.
Of course he will. It's a different generation. Know this? 90% of all childbirths are accompanied by an accidental dookie.
Dude, I'd be a mess if I had to give up my Joe. I have a full-blown addiction. Hopefully that won't come back to haunt me. Where did you get this? Who taught you how to use this thing?
You, all right? I learned from watching you.
Damn it, Billy. At least he's using good beans.
Do the negative effects of caffeine outweigh the joy people get of consuming it? When people sit down to drink their regular morning cup of coffee, or even just to drink a tea or soda, very few to none are aware of the fact that they are taking a drug. Since a drug is defined as any substance which affects the mood or state and function of the body, caffeine, while normally thought of as one, is most definitely a drug. It is possible to overdose on caffeine. Symptoms of an overdose include hyperventilation, rapid heartbeat, convulsions, and imbalances in the body's levels of potassium, sugar, and other blood chemicals. The overdose amount differs from person to person and really depends on the person's body weight, metabolic rate, and their usual intake of caffeine or their tolerance. Fatal caffeine overdoses are very rare, but they can occur. Most are either suicide attempts or accidental overuse of caffeine tablets. Any average sized adult would have to consume about 5,000 milligrams of caffeine, which is about 50 cups of normal strength coffee, to get a fatal dose, and the cups would have to be drunk in rapid succession. In children, because of their smaller mass and differences in metabolizing caffeine, a much smaller dose could be lethal. The average daily intake of caffeine among consumers in the United States is about 280 milligrams, which is equal to about 3 cups of coffee, or even 7 12-ounce glasses of a cola beverage. Results of a study published in 2001 from Janet Brown in the Misclassification of Exposure, Coffee as a Surrogate for Caffeine Intake, published in the American Journal of Epidemiology, show that the 4 main sources of caffeine for people aged 30 to 75 living in southern Ontario, Canada, were brewed coffee, instant coffee, regular tea, and sodas. Brewed coffee was the main source of caffeine. Coffee is the most caffeinated drink out of any of the caffeinated drinks, with 5 ounces of coffee containing up to 91 milligrams of caffeine. Results of a study on beverage caffeine intake in the U.S. From C.A. Knight in the Food and Chemical Toxicology, published in December of 2004, were somewhat consistent with the Ontario study, with just showing that children and young adults, instead of having coffee as their main caffeine intake, it shows that soda is their main caffeine intake. Caffeine is classified as a stimulant because it increases the activity of cardiovascular system, digestive system, and the sympathetic nervous system, and produces a sense of alertness in the brain. It has a mild diuretic effect, eliminating water from the body by increasing urination. In moderate amounts, it can increase the ability to work longer and concentrate better. Too much caffeine, however, can produce nervousness, anxiety, irritability, and sleeplessness. Now, there are a lot of effects of caffeine, and all these effects can be developed with taking just a small amount of caffeine or a large amount. Some of the effects include making people jittery and shaky, making people fall asleep, staying asleep, or getting a good night's sleep difficult, making their heart beat faster or unevenly, raising the blood pressure, causing headaches, nervousness, or dizziness, causing dehydration, basically the loss of body fluids, which is especially apparent after a workout. Now, some people say that when women drink caffeine during pregnancy, that it is harmful to their future child. Michael Bracken, a perinatal epidemiologist at the Yale School of Public Health, cites that he has tracked the habits of thousands of expectant mothers over the past 2 decades, and states that, based on current evidence, we can safely say to a pregnant woman, if you're under 300 milligrams of caffeine per day, that's about 2 or 1 cups of coffee every day, you're not doing anything harmful to the child. Now, the fact that caffeine increases alertness has led some people to believe the myth that a strong cup of coffee will help to sober up someone who's drunk. But caffeine, after recent studies, does not counteract the effects of alcohol. Results of a 2005 Harvard study, which used large data sets from the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, both the men and women's sector of the health sector in Harvard, supports the findings reported in the previous paragraph, in that consumption of caffeinated coffee or tea, or caffeine from other sources was not associated with the incidence of colon or rectal cancer. Another negative effect of caffeine is the drug testing that is used to check athletes for, sometimes unfairly because of the very wide range of results that caffeine can show in urine caffeine concentration readings. There is clear evidence from controlled study trials that caffeine in quantities below the 1986 allowable level can have dramatic ergonic effect on performance, particularly in endurance sporting events like the mile and anything on the track. Pentathlete Alex Watson was expelled from the 1988 Seoul Olympics for breaching the allowable caffeine level, becoming the first Australian to be disqualified from an Olympiad for a drug-related offense. Following the adverse finding from the IOC Medical Commission, Watson was disqualified from his event, banned for life, expelled from the Games, and thrown out of the Olympic Village and put on a plane home. Now, in the end, I believe that not just the negative effects alone of caffeine, but the massive amounts of negative effects of caffeine outweigh any joy or jolt or pick-me-up that anybody develops out of caffeine. Thank you for listening to my chemistry podcast on the negative and positive effects of caffeine.